So, Laurie, I hope your notes were good for the first 5 minutes of the meeting. The meeting is now being recorded, and my apologies that the recording did not happen initially. That was my error entirely, and my apologies.
It's all right. Nobody saw me. There's no recording of me eating my lunch.
All right. The meeting is now being recorded for everyone's full disclosure. My apologies. So again, under public participation, we held something called a FOTE meeting, which is a forum of active transportation. And we had direct involvement from the city, the state, and county agencies, and a total of over 50 participants. Some were member agencies and some were assorted consulting firms and entities, but we had over 15 people of the general quote, regular public attendees as well. And it was a good experience for us. It was our first normal, I'm going to call it public meeting that isn't like a committee meeting or something like that that we do that's open to the public. The purpose of this was just to talk to the public in general. And this is our first one we've done of that completely virtually. And it was actually very successful. It was a big learning experience for us to do it and to set it up in such a way that to reduce the likelihood of bombing, if you will, and of disruption and still allow for meaningful engagement. I think it was, I think we got all the feedback we've gotten is very positive from the attendees. I think it was done pretty well. It's going to be a regular occurrence, and we're going to use that mechanism going forward for other experiences as well. Once we can gather in person, I think we're probably going to continue to do this to some degree as well, because we get a lot more involvement and input this way. But I'm sure we're all looking forward to being able to gather in person to some degree as well.
Is this going to be quarterly, or?
The idea is quarterly for that group, as long as there's something to talk about, and it seems like there's always something to talk about as it relates to active transportation, bike padding related activities. There's always someone is doing some project people want an update on, or someone has a concern that they would like to express. So everyone really enjoyed the updates from the city, the county, and the state on the state of your various projects. I think we have a lot of really exciting stuff going on in our community as it relates to that, and it's good for everyone to hear that from the people who are most knowledgeable. I mentioned on federal transportation for Mark's question, we don't really know, but there has been, as part of the COVID relief package that's being approved this week, I mean, there is money that is going to localities. That money has the ability to be spent on infrastructure to some degree if entities choose to. So it is a possibility to have some additional infrastructure money if people choose to spend that money in that way. For data collection, we have a new RFP that's out on the streets already. Proposals are due later this month. That's to secure some our new traffic account contract. I will be hiring new interns for the summer to do a variety of data collection, especially for the city. So if you have qualified intern candidates, please send them my way. UPWP Development, we have our final UPWP that's been printed and arrived here. I did not mail it out to all of our member agencies given the postage cost. That's usually the kind of thing we hand out in person at meetings. But if you would like a hard copy of our UPWP, let me know and I will have it brought to you. Otherwise, it's available on our website. Under Geographic Information Systems, we're working with the MPO Association on a variety of training related to crash data analysis and GIS integration. ESRI, the GIS software vendor, will be providing some of that training to assist us. Bike ped planning, I mentioned that meeting. That's the main thing we did for that. That took a lot of preparatory work to get that moving. Under regional initiatives, we're waiting on SACPA to get us back stuff on the Erie Canal Trail Local Economic Opportunities Plan. We kind of want to be done with our efforts on that. So Dan, I'm going to ask you and Megan if you could please kick us the stuff that you were waiting on for you so we can wrap up our end, and then I really would like to take that off my plate of things on my active basket if at all possible.
Me too. I'll pass it on to Megan. We're all waiting on Megan.
All right, thank you very much. For I-81, SMTC is working with New York State DOT and FHWA to better understand the MPO requirements that will have to be in place for DOT to move forward with their capital program. To that effect, we have a coordination meeting scheduled for next week. There is going to be some things that the MPO has to do, like we're going to have to amend our long-range transportation plan, the details of which we're trying to understand with FHWA right now so that it's done correctly. There's also other requirements we have to do with the MPO so that we are not the impediment to the I-81 project moving forward. If we don't do those things, that project cannot be added to the TIP or the STIP, and they can't spend all that money. So regardless of what solution is put forward, so we're going to need to do that. For transit, staff gave a presentation to the Syracuse Surge executive team on BRT and the Smart One study. Centro joined us on that, as did some representatives from the city. Resulted in several follow-up conversations from almost everyone who was on that call with me at one point or time. It was a productive conversation trying to move that concept forward again. Under the joint TMC co-location project, it had very productive conversations with Onondaga County. Thank you very much, Marty, with County DOT and County Emergency Management to try and determine their level of interest in being part of that process, that examination, and the interest is very high. And I think we have a very high potential for being able to come up with a good plan for the future for a joint TMC co-location project for the city, the county, and the state. I think it's looks very optimistic going forward, and we all know that I'm not optimistic, so that's saying something. Under the Dome Traffic Management and Events Strategic Plan, Stantec is officially under contract, work is underway, and a SAC meeting is being scheduled for later this month. Some of the miscellaneous studies. Tuscarora Road study is moving along nicely with the SAC meeting being scheduled. The Route 11 corridor study in Mattydale is going at a good clip. We're in the middle of doing regional travel demand modeling build-out scenarios for that for future possible impacts. Village of Skaneateles pedestrian safety and access study should be wrapped up by summer's end. The town of Skaneateles kind of add-on project that's associated with that, we're pretty much all done with any efforts we're going to do with that, and we're turning it over to the town/state to negotiate anything that they want to do with that. Our effort is completed for that. We're just documenting that in writing. The Manlius Village Center pedestrian safety and mobility project, that's underway, but that's going to carry well into the new program year that kicks off in April. That will take up most of that program year before it's completed. The Syracuse Sidewalk Planning Study, that's what's been the main project. I'm going to be retaining interns for this summer, and we're going to be continuing with that at the city's request. City of Syracuse Safety Assessment Project is quite far along, and hotspots are being examined and investigated as we speak. And under TIP development maintenance, trying to stay on top of that, and we don't want our projects to all bunch up in the last 2 months of the year. To that end, we have a CPC meeting scheduled later this month, the exact date of which escapes me. Mario, you have the date for the CPC meeting?
It's the 26th.
Thank you. And that's it for status report. If I went quick, if I missed your project that you care about, please ask a question. I'll tell you where it stands.
Okay, guess we're good. We'll move to no old business, new business, TIP amendments we have a few TIP amendments for the state.
Yes, we have 3 TIP amendments for New York State DOT. Number 1, maintenance by contract, Route 92 and Routes 173. New York State DOT is proposing to delay the detailed design phase from federal fiscal year 2021 to 21-22. Offsets provided by the Onondaga Lake Parkway project. Second TIP amendment is Route 11 ADA sidewalk and pedestrian safety project, Taft Road to Bear Road, Stevens Road to Factory Street, Village of North Syracuse. DOT is proposing to increase right-of-way acquisition for 2021 by $352,000 STB flex funding to address takings. Offsets provided by the project above, as well as the Route 31 CNS High School to South Bay Road project. And the third project, maintenance by contract, Route 5 Western Route 5 ramp to Myrtle Street, Town of Geddes. New York State DOT proposing to add local share betterment funds in the amount of $80,000 from the Village of Salt Bay. So basically, we're just adding additional local funds for betterment improvement to that project. The state's on if you have any questions for them, or if they would like to speak to any of their TIP amendments.
Mark,
Jim,
what's,
go ahead.
is there anything you can tell me about the schedule for 370?
Yes, I can. 370, you're looking mainly from the construction standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So we have 370 slated. Let me just look it up here. I think it's June of 22 is when we're proposing to do the construction. The one thing that, let me just find it here, Marty. Yeah, June of 22. And the one thing that has happened with the Parkway, right before COVID, we had done a lot of the public meeting. We certainly got a lot of comments on that. I think the county and the state are in unison. I think SMTC helped us out there also to move that project forward. We don't have design approval today. But we need to progress to that stage. We continue to work on the project, want to see that into construction. There's a significant shortfall in funding overall on this project. It's going to cost a lot more than what we have on the tip. And we've been kind of stealing from this project to utilize some of the funding to fill some of the other gaps. So that's something that we're working on our side. This is also tied, we're doing some work on your facility also as part of this project. Some of the intersections are upgraded, some signal work that we certainly have to coordinate. And then you have the MBC project on your section that we also have to coordinate. So I'm thinking and hoping that a lot of that can be wrapped up design approval wise by the summertime with the public, and we can move into final design to do what we need to do. I think we have what we need from the county related to that.
One item that I think is we need to discuss at the CPC later this month is you mentioned a funding shortfall for that, and plugging that shortfall will remove basically additional funds from the tip in terms of all available extra funds. And so we didn't want to do that before we had that at a CPC meeting, because Mary and the county as well has both expressed interest in expending all of the funds before known costs are in place. So that's a topic for discussion at our CPC meeting.
We all need big stimulus, Jim.
I'll settle for any.
Yeah. Marty, are you all set?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I get asked about that a lot, obviously, because there's a high level of interest in advancing our project out there as well. And anytime there's a conversation about stimulus, it's, what can we, how much further down the field can we move the ball if we have stimulus money? So I'm trying to get my head around the timing and the restrictions of what that stimulus is going to look like and how it's going to work. But I actually expect getting some questions about, what's the state doing? So now I can answer that. And I do appreciate Ed sent the data files over for Chris, which was very helpful. So we're able to kind of get an idea what the alignment will look like too. So thank you for that, and thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, and I think just on the stimulus piece, and I think all of us are being asked that. What's coming down the pike? Federal transportation bill expires October 1st of this year, and I think all municipalities are kind of looking at what are the opportunities, and are there going to be new streams of funding? So we're also taking that into consideration, as there's a lot of needs in the transportation.
Yeah, and I'd like, my priority, frankly, would be to get to finish the things we've already told the community we're going to do before we start inventing new things to do.
Totally understood. I'm right with you, Marty.
Yeah, I think you follow my meaning, but we still have a lot of unanswered questions about how we're going to finish certain things. So we'd love to get those resolved first, but we'll see how it goes.
Yep. Yeah. I will say too, as part of program update action, one of the very first things we've always done at SMTC is right size projects, so that those first ones, the ones that are coming up, the ones that are progressing towards those final estimates, and we lock that in. I think that's always been a good strategy to right size projects, whatever they need to be. So look forward to doing that with all of us.
Absolutely. And that process tends to eat up the lion's share of all the available funding historically. As soon as we right size all the projects and find out what they actually put them in the program for their actual costs, tends to leave a little left over for new.
Yeah. So let me just give you a little more background on the two tip amendments. One, the last one, the Route 5 is really just putting a local share into that. It has really no impact to the federal. And the village, the Solvay basically wanted to add some stuff, some work to the project. So that just is reflecting the third one. But the Route 11 ADA section, this section, we're coming up to completing the design work, and we got into more right away than what we anticipated. The right away out there, a lot of times you can't really tell what the lines are, and is requiring us to acquire more than we thought we would have to as part of that sidewalk project. And it's that commercial strip. And so the values of the property are some of the most, or some of the highest. So that's why the addition of the 352,000. We targeted the Route 92 project, which we're just initiating that project as we speak now in my office. Design approval would have had to be completed before October 1st of this year. So what we did is we're recommending that we'll get design approval in the next federal fiscal year, use that funding on that Route 11 ADA. So it's a simple movement of fund sources to really maximize the amount of federal funding that's available and keep projects within DOT's domain. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions about those. And the Route 5, we're not slipping. I'm sorry, the Route 92, we're not slipping construction at all. That'd still be in the next 21-22 fiscal year.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, any further just discussion on these 3 tip amendments? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll move, Mary.
Okay, second.
I'll second it, this is Mark.
Okay, Mark, any further discussion? All in favor of approving the 3 tip amendments? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Village of Phoenix request.
Yeah, let me start with an apology. The executive summary sheet is mislabeled tip amendments, and I didn't realize that when the mailing went out. That's my bad, and I had people review it, and no one else caught it either until I was reviewing it this morning, so we all screwed up. Apologies. So it is not another tip amendment, so that is a mislabeled piece of paper. This is just an informational item. I was contacted by the Village of Phoenix. They asked me to help facilitate a conversation with New York State DOT. Formally for their canal bridge. Normally I would do that by wandering over to New York State DOT and having a conversation with a bunch of people in an office, but that doesn't happen these days. So I thought I'd take advantage of the fact that we're having an executive committee meeting to do it in this forum, just so that we make sure that we're on the record, we have this conversation. I fulfilled my obligation to the village. They have a lot of concern that they call it a drawbridge. I don't know if it's technically considered a drawbridge or not, but the village refers to it as a drawbridge. The condition of that they find to be unacceptable for quality of life in the village. They've written a letter that is attached to your mailing for you to see and review. Hopefully you had a chance to read it. It is not the best looking bridge in town. It certainly could use some attention. That is an understatement. I think everyone could probably agree with that if you take a look at it. I know it used to be flagged. I think there was some work that was done to it in the not too distant past by the states to address those, but I guess I just wanted to bring it to the state's attention that the Village of Phoenix would like to have a conversation about what you can do for that. They came to me because they saw the Bridge New York solicitation, but that is a state-owned facility bridge on a state-owned road and not a local item. And if they brought it forward on their own, they'd have to come up with 20% to pay the cost. They don't want to do that. So it's not, especially since it's not their facility. So I'd love to hear some input from the state on this. Give me some information I could bring back to the village, or if you guys want to bring it back to the village yourselves, that'd be even better.
Yeah, so Jim, I read that and John was going to reach out to our structures engineer. I don't know where that bridge falls in the 600 bridges that we own currently. And John, did you get a chance this morning to talk to our structures asset team?
I did. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to Mike, and he said it's not on the list of bridges to be painted or other work, but if funding becomes available, they'll certainly move it up the list. I did find out it's got about 6,500 cars a day for the AEDT, and just so Jim knows, in the summer of 19, we responded to a letter from Jim Lynch, the village administrator, and basically saying that we reviewed the schedule of bridge painting contracts in the department's regional bridge painting program, and at the time it was currently not on the painting schedule. And 2 years later, according to our structures engineer, it still isn't toward the top of the list. Jim, I was wondering if you're going to propose that, like maybe encourage DOT to apply for TIP funds for this bridge, since they want more than just painting, they want deck work and such.
Well, I haven't done a proper evaluation of the facility in terms of whether how it compares to other facilities. I know it's not a particularly high volume facility, though it is important to the village proper itself. I just want, it's unusual for a village to approach us with a request for a state-owned facility. So I just wanted to make sure I just facilitated that information to you guys, and I wouldn't ask if the state could communicate back to the village directly and copy me in. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll carry a message back to them, but I think it'd be more meaningful if it came from the state.
We can do that, Jim. I think as we get into the springtime, and there's a lot of calls into the organization about deficiencies. And, I think that there is a lot of effort that goes into identifying our highest priorities to submit during program update.
Sure.
We just have not taken that step related to structures or this individual bridge. I don't believe we've submitted this one for a bridge painting contract, but it's one of those ways of, if it's structurally sound, to make things look good, especially in village settings. It's something that should be discussed a little bit, because you can make it at least aesthetically pleasing to the community. They're relatively inexpensive to be able to do that. And we desire to do that in a lot of cases, to just make things look better for 10 years. And then maybe when we do a rehab of the bridge, we're ripping it out or addressing paint again. So,
Sure.
but we'll send something back to the village on
Thank
that.
you very much. I appreciate that. Again, that's just an informational item. I do have one item that actually, I apologize, that wasn't on the agenda. I just wanted to bring it up while we have all of our member agencies here. And I know there's nothing you can do about it, Mark, but I feel the need to talk about it. I was talking to Mario about it earlier today. And that is pavement rating data collection. We do it for the city and the county now, and for all the federal aid eligible roads. The state does its own. I have not received state pavement data since 2017. It's the last year we've actually had it given to us. Yet we are charged with planning and programming monies for all the facilities, and theoretically it's supposed to be done with an eye towards is the infrastructure in need, and how does it relate to everything else in the area? If we can't put everything in the same basket and do comparisons, we can't really answer those questions. I understand that this is related to a change in modification to how the state does the data collection. I have reached out to main office directly and gotten no answers and no return phone calls, no information. I just want to point out that it's going to make our next tip cycle very more challenging if the largest facility owner in our area doesn't have or won't share the condition data for your facilities, and what you guys are going to come and ask for the lion's share of the money. We know you're going to, you always do. And this is the first time we will have no real data on the quality of your facilities for this. So it's going to become an issue very soon. I'd like it to not be one. It seems like something we can address. So I just want to bring it up on the table. And it's been talked around on the edges for a couple of years now, but it's becoming a problem.
Yeah, and Jim, you said it, the first thing you said, it's out of my control.
I do.
And,
But I'd be remiss to not bring it up to this committee and to the council, because I understand it's not coming out of the regional office, but the regional office is going to ask for a percentage of our capital funds based on the condition of your infrastructure. We cannot compare that to the rest of the infrastructure that we do have conditions on because the state is not sharing its data with us. It's going to make for a more contentious process than it has to be.
Yeah, and let me just ask John Riker, do we have any new information on this, John?
My understanding is that Mike, what's his last name? Yeah. Is it okay if Julie crashes the executive party here?
Yes, it is.
Right here.
Okay.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
We had been working with Mike Flynn to try and get the information. We were hoping something would shake loose, but what ended up happening was they met with the CDTC, is it Franchini?
Yep.
Yesterday. They were hoping they'd be able to say, go ahead, here's our stuff, but it looks like we can't. CDTC has been threatening to do an RFP for their own pavement contract to do what we do. And I guess we've given them our RFP and all of our data schema for that. So I guess we're not able to release it, and we're saying if that's what you want to do, go ahead. It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate because you've collected years worth of data and we don't have access to it, and we know that it exists. And I don't want to spend our limited resources on regathering information that the state already has.
I understand that totally, and I think it's silly that that's the way it's looking.
And Jim, that was shared with Andrew shortly before the meeting?
Yeah, I talked to Andrew this morning, sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm bringing it up to, that's kind of why I'm bringing it up to this level. I just need to make sure all of our member agencies are fully informed on this, because it sounds like it's a minor thing. It's just a data set, but it's a major thing in the sense that it kind of drives, like, you know, millions and millions of dollars of investment in our community, right? It's based on the condition of our infrastructure and trying to preserve and improve it. Knowing the condition of it is critical to that.
Sure.
And, you know, we're going to be called by the feds when they come to do our certification about how are we evaluating that? And my answer is, quite frankly, is going to be, we're not, because New York State DOT is not sharing that information with us. That's what I have to say. And that doesn't make anyone look good.
Every time you ask us, I argue with main office, different people to try and get it for you, and that's
Oh, I know.
what I can do.
I hold the region completely harmless in this. I absolutely do. But I'd also be remiss by not bringing it up to everyone's attention. That's all.
Sure.
I just needed to bring it to the table again. That's all.
Okay.
Do you,
Well,
is there anything we can do to help push main office?
Sure, I would love if elected officials want to put letters into the commissioner of New York State DOT or to the governor, that'd be great. I don't think they'll be well received, but sure. I think it's not being released for a reason. It's not an oversight.
And I guess I still don't quite understand the reason. The data is part of an RFP?
No, that which what's referencing there is our sister MPO in Albany is threatening to do an RFP to do all of its own data collection for the state, since the state isn't releasing its data sets to them, because they're in the same position we are.
I gotcha.
So no, my impression is the state has a contract. They've collected data. It's a very different system than they used to use to collect the data. It's not necessarily comparing apples to apples, looking at the way they collected the data now versus the way the data was collected in the past. I think there's some concern about how it all looks when you compare it together. And I get that, I get it, but we can disclaim the heck out of it if necessary. And we can do all kinds of things to couch it, but to just pretend the data doesn't exist makes everyone look bad.
I will say on this pavement platform, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago that, matter of fact, Julie managed it in my office, would do all the scoring, and she's been helpful to assist SMTC in scoring the county and the city scores. And it was probably, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago that the state stopped going out and doing scores, and that really is a reflection of the how many cracks are in the pavement. And I think there's been somewhat of a transition to rideability, which is a different way of looking at
Sure.
pavements. And so you don't actually see a crack when you're driving 55 miles per hour, but you feel a bump when you hit it. And so they're trying to align with the national way of looking at things. And much like the bridge screening or the bridge rating stuff has changed to the MBI system, the pavement has also changed. And when that did, I think it was to Jim's point of the metrics are different. We've actually done quite a bit of paving work in Onondaga County in the last couple of years due to the harsh winter paving. And so I think our numbers reflectively should be better than what they were a couple of years ago, but I can't speak to how we're doing on the rideability. And this is not an Onondaga issue. This is a statewide issue, and decisions are made. So
Understood.
that's what we're trying to work through. And
Understood.
but to me, the big value that the pavement and bridge report that SMTC puts together really focuses on the trends that are occurring. And it really helps to identify the committees that SMTC has developed on the bridge side, on the pavement side. We've been able to zero in on the type of projects, sidewalk projects, bike lane projects, transit projects. And so not having that trend information makes that more of a challenge. So I get that, Jim.
Yep. All right, thank you. That's all I have for today.
All right, anybody else have anything? We have no public comment because we're being taped. So could I have a motion to adjourn? Brian?
Brian.
I'll
Second.
Mark.
Mark? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. I'll see a lot of you at the CPC meeting later this month. Thank you very much.
Thanks, folks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.